So welcome to the very first true lecture for the term project that we're going to do in ASP Net Core. Okay, and this is going to be the project that we're going to follow throughout the entire semester. You're going to also parallel your own project, but each week you're going to come in and watch the videos that I'm producing for you guys to do your term projects. And so the first thing I want to do is I do want to start off with this. I'm in my GitHub account, okay, and I've created the repository already. Okay, it's called Georgian Groceries. So what I'm going to do is build an online grocery store, because for this term project you're going to have to build something truly unique, something different from mine and different from everybody else in the class. So I didn't think any of you would really want to do a grocery store, so that's why I'm doing a grocery store to follow throughout. Okay, so if you want to know how you're going to do this, you get into your GitHub, you hit new, and it's your name. You come up with a new repository name. Mine is going to be public, but you as a student should set yours to private so that nobody else goes in and takes any of your stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go back because I've already created mine. Okay, I've created the Georgian already, and at some point I'm gonna have to come back and get this. So if you see the little clipboard and you click that, it means that you're copying that link, because that's what I'm going to need to link my Visual Studio 2019 to this GitHub repo. Okay, so I'm going to open up this, okay, and I'm going to create a new project, and it's C#, so I'm going to do this ASP.NET Core web application here. Okay, and I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to call it Georgian Groceries. Okay, Georgian Groceries, and I'm just going to leave this Cayman source repo. I'm going to leave that the way it is. Place solution and project in the same directory. Okay, I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to use this web application model view controller. Okay, and the next thing I do want to do is change this to the very first setting. So individual user account, it was set to no authentication, but I want it to be individual user account. Okay, and from there, double check that your core 3.1, some of you may have an issue. So I did some research, talked to Rich Freeman about this, and he had said that maybe 2.1 should be okay. So, but you want ASP.NET Core 3.1 if you can help it. Okay, and I'm just going to go through and hit OK. All right, so it's going to fire this up in the background. Okay, now I want to go to in my Visual Studio, and I'm not going to do a start debugging. I'm going to do a start without debugging. Okay, so this is what I'm getting. Okay, it's 443. Okay, it's my local, and 50. So you're probably going to get the last two digits in yours is going to be different, but whatever you name yours, in this particular case, I think each week it's probably not a bad idea that you just follow along with what I'm doing and then do your term project in parallel. Okay, so you're going to get this welcome, this register. So if I want to register, or if I want to log in, that's already pre-built for us. Okay, and then we've got the privacy tab and the home tab. Home tab and Georgian computers are the same thing. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my Visual Studio, and you can see this. I've got Team Explorer down here, and if you don't have it, go to View, Team Explorer. But I've already got it, and I've got it pinned. That's what this little thumbtack is. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to actually connect mine. So I hit the home button and settings, and then global settings. Okay, and you can see that that's where that repo is. Okay, and it's all there. It's my name, my email, and all this stuff. So now what I want to do is make sure that I connect my GitHub to my Visual Studio file. So any updates I make in here are automatically going to go to that repo out in the cloud somewhere. So at this stage of the game here, there's a really important thing. It's right down here. It says add to source control. Okay, So all of this stuff is exactly how I wanted it to be. When we saved it, I saved that in here, but then I'm saying add to source control. Okay, so if I click on that button and I hit the little Git that popped up, you can see down here that commit, whatever that number is, created locally in repository, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's all there. Okay, so what do we have to do? So something you should be aware of, notice that that message down there, it did change. As soon as I connected it, it changed. Okay, so once you do that once and you connect it, your files to your GitHub repository, that button's gone now. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go to home, and that's the home icon, and then changes. And I'm going to type in a message just to make sure that I'm fully connected. So I'm going to say that this is groceries. Okay, that's the start of it. And that's what I need to do to add that to our, it's going to add this message in there, this little note for me to go into and look at this in my GitHub repository. So I'm going to add the space there. Okay, and then I'm also going to type in, okay, and what I'll do is I'm actually going to save that. Now let's go back to Team Explorer. Okay, this is the start of Georgian Groceries, and I spelt that wrong already, and I think this is going to be a common problem for me, is spelling. Okay, and update to the footer. Okay, that's all we're going to do. So now I'm going to do a commit all. Okay, so this was created locally. So this commit, blah, 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 whatever number that is, created locally. Sync to share your changes to the with the server. So I'm going to sync that. I hit that sync and I'm good to go now. Okay. Okay, I have one more thing I have to do. Okay, notice here it says push to remote repository. Okay, that's the next step that I've got to do. And if you click on that little button, push to Git repo, I have to go out to my GitHub there, and actually this is the link that I want to get. Okay, so I'm going to copy that and go back to my Visual Studio and put that in there. Okay, and then publish. Okay, you can see that it's pushing the branch, and it's got a bunch of objects that are in there. Okay, and when I do a pull, you see nothing yet. Okay, issues. Am I looking at code? What have I got? I've got everything in there now. Okay, so you can see that everything I have in here. So let's see if I can go to views. Okay, shared layout, and when I open that up, you notice right down at the bottom I changed that. I put that space in here, and I've also got my name in there. Okay, so we're doing great at this point. The other thing I want to do is just to confirm that change, so I'm going to refresh that. Okay, and I get the space in here, and now I've got my name inside there. Okay, so I think we're doing really good at this point. There's a couple things that are really bugging me that I want to change right away. First is I don't like it the way it says Georgian Groceries. So I am going to go into here, and what you can see here is you would think that in the header that this here where it says title Georgian Computers, that is what we want to actually change, but it's not. Okay, so be careful, okay, because this is the head, but here is the header. And this is our nav. Okay, so when we go back to our page, this is the nav bar. Okay, so you have to be very careful of where you are. So where we want to be is actually in this nav bar home, and in this this line right here where it says index, because remember what's going on here. We've got home, we've got privacy, but watch when I click this again. It takes me right back to my home. Okay, so it's calling my home controller, and it's calling the method index. That's what's happening right now. Okay, so it's the same thing as home index. It's the same exact thing. Okay, so that's why in this spot, it's not actually talking about this line of code. It's actually talking about this line of code. So what I want to do is go and change the title. I don't like what that says. I'm going to call it Georgian Online Grocery Store. Corny, I know, but that's what we've got. Okay, I'm going to save that. And the next thing I want to do is, I've already done it, but I'm going to go down. I want to add this little stupid hyphen that I missed putting in there before. Okay, so it's in there now, and I'm going to Control S to save it. The star goes away, and I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to update that. Okay, here it is. So Georgian Online Grocery Store. When I click it, it takes me right back to the same place as home, and like this. Okay, so I'm going to close this one out for a minute. And do I need this? No, I don't need that. I don't need that open. I don't need really much open here, but I will actually go to my home controller. Okay, so in my home controller, what you're seeing is the actual the fact that the controller is inheriting from the parent controller. Okay, so this is your home controller and inherits from controller, and you've got your actual constructor right here. Okay, and then right here is the two functions that, or methods that we've dealt with in the past: index and privacy. Okay, and remember it's this IA action, and when you're using the IA action in this index method, you're always returning a view. For the most part, you're returning a view. There's instances that will actually pass in a parameter into that view function or method. Sorry, I teach C++ too, so I get confused between methods and functions, but at the end of the day, they are the exact same thing. Okay, and of course, to understand that this index, okay, the same spelling, and all these methods, they do start with a capital letter. That's Microsoft's naming convention. They start with a capital letter, and you can see it here. And what's happening is, if you look at this and you say, well, how is this returning a view? Okay, because ultimately what's happening is we're talking about this view here, this CS_HTML, okay, in this privacy CS_HTML. How does it know which view to call? Because when we're actually looking at our grocery store, and let's say I click privacy, I've got home. Okay, that's my controller, and then this privacy method is what you're seeing right here. It's calling this method right here, but in there it's saying, well, we return a view. Okay, well, which view does it know? It actually knows this. There's a relationship between this view and this privacy, and this view inside this privacy method automatically knows to go over to here and display this particular view for privacy. Display what's ever inside this. Okay, so that's the relationship that we've got going on right now, and of course it's coming from the home controller. Okay, you got to think of the home controller as a traffic light or a traffic cop directing where everything is going. Okay, so there's a lot of logic that happens inside our controllers that starts to direct traffic to and from the actual views that we want to see. Okay, so it's really important that you understand that concept. So I think what we're going to do at this point now is play around with the controllers. We're going to go ahead and add in another controller. Okay, so you highlight over your controller, and I'm going to keep this open, these views. Okay, but we're going to go to controllers, highlight the controller, file folder. I'm going to right click, add, and it says controller. Okay, so I'm going to add the controller, and you notice here I've got 6 available options to me. And for right now, don't worry about the bottom ones, but if you want to know what they do, have a look over on the right side of the screen. It gives a written description of what's going on inside of those. But for now, I don't want to deal with the APIs. I want to deal with the MVCs. So this bottom one here using entity framework is one that we're going to come back and use in the future once we have our databases all set up. But for now we're not, because what you can see is this actually has CRUD, okay, create, read, update, and delete inside this this entity framework. But for now we're not actually going to use it. So for right now, I'm just going to go to MVC controller and we're going to do an empty, okay? So it'll come up and give us this interface. So I've given this this option here, okay? And we're going to go with this controller class empty. Now notice down here it's defaulting to home controller 1 because there's already one in there, and it's a .cs, so .c# file. So what I want to do is I'm going to call this one store, okay, controller. Okay, I don't have to put the extension in there, but what I have to do, and be very careful of this, you have to do this in Pascal case. So it has to start with a capital, and the next word controller has to start with a capital C, and you've got to use the word controller. Okay, so this is going to be store controller. If you want, you can do .cs. You don't need to, but it will automatically fill that in. This is a Microsoft naming convention as well. It's got to be in Pascal case. So if you look over here under controllers, you're going to see we're going to get the store controller. Okay, so I'll hit add, and you see that the store controller just popped up here, and it immediately came to the screen. And you notice right away it's inheriting from controllers. Okay, it's called store controller. And the first thing it has is this index method, and we're returning a view. Okay, but let's look over here. Do you see another view for store? Okay, so we can't do this yet. We're not at that stage where we can actually look at this page if we wanted to, because we haven't actually created or scaffolded out or built out a store view. Okay, so what we've got is the controller. We don't have the models yet, and we don't have the view yet. But notice that we're starting with our controllers, okay? It's really important you understand that. Now, remember when last week we spoke, we talked about some defaults, okay? And if you were wondering why I kept saying, okay, well, when I click on that, I don't necessarily need that URL link. Okay, I don't need the /home. Okay, I don't need it to say that in index. Why don't I need to say that? And the reason here is because in our startup file, this is the default. Okay, so remember that was in there. This is the default. It's my home controller, and it's the index, okay, that it is looking for. So really important. So let's just try something, see if I'm right or not. Let's see, did I spell that right? Privacy ACY. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, and I updated that startup. Okay, and I need to now go in and refresh that. Okay, so what's gonna happen? See that? It went to my privacy page. I click on this, it goes to my home index. But when I go to home, okay, it goes to here. So I've got to make changes in other places. So if I don't actually type it in, if I do this, oops, doesn't matter. See, it's automatically going there, if you notice. Okay, so that was one of the big changes that happened. Okay, so let me refresh that. It's automatically taking me to my home index. Not a big deal, but I got to go back in there and make that change anyway. Okay, so I'll just do a Control Z. It'll switch it to index. Okay, but that's the point I wanted to kind of try to make, why it was defaulting to that. And now we get back to our store controller, and all we have at this point is our controller and our index page. Okay, so if I were to go back to our store and I said Let's go store. Okay, and /index. What do you suppose is going to happen? Okay, I'm going to get an error. The reason is it says the view index was not found. Okay, it checked in views, stores index, views, shared index, pages, shared index. It couldn't find it because if you look over here in views, the index for store doesn't exist, but the index for home does. Okay, so don't get confused by index for home and index for store. They're totally different things. Okay, so let's get back in there and maybe start thinking about doing the view. Now, if we want to build that view that we were talking about, I have to be in views, and I can't just do a right click and add a view. Okay, because it's going to send it inside or under that file folder. What I want to do is actually create a new folder before I do that. Okay, so the way I'm going to add that folder is I'm going to go to here and let's see, where does it say new folder? Add a new folder. And I'm going to call this store. Okay, that's my store folder. And notice it's now, if I minimize home, okay, it is now under the views section of my directory. Okay, so from store is where I can go now in and add a view. Okay, and notice I've got Razor View empty and Razor View. Okay, Razor View with or without a strongly typed model. Razor View scaffolder. Don't worry about that right now. I'm just going to go with the Razor View empty. Okay, and what am I going to call this? Razor View empty. I'm going to leave it as index.cshtml. Okay, understand again, this is a view. It's a CSHTML. It's also called index. Okay, so I'm going to add this, and you'll notice, let me open up home again. I've got two files called index.cshtml. Okay, I've got one there and I have one there. Okay, and when I open it up over here, I've got this one. When I open it up over there, I've got that one. But this is basically saying this is the home page of my store view. Okay, now in my store, okay, notice this capital I index is, it has to match the spelling of this index over here. Okay, now I could do something. I could say I could do this. I could type in store index, okay, and then go to here and do a rename to store rename, sorry. Okay, I could go to store index. Okay, if I did that, it would be perfectly legal, and this should stop complaining. Who knows if it's gonna or not. I'm gonna hit save. Okay, but for the purpose of this, I'm not gonna bother. Okay, I'm just gonna have to know in my head that index and index, they exist in two different places. They're just in different, they're part of different views. Okay, so you can see this thing, it doesn't like it. IA action store index. Okay, it just doesn't like it. It's complaining. Okay, and what can I do to fix it? Okay, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to actually undo it. I just want you to know that that's really what you're trying to differentiate between. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to rename that back to index. Okay, now we're good. That line went away. Everything is fine. So I'm going to do a Control S to save it, make the star go away, and I'll go out of here. And let's see what happens here. I've got store index. Okay. Store is my controller. Index is my method that calls this particular view. Okay. All right, what's next? I think what I'll do right now is just I'll put a little message on there, because this is basically an empty canvas here. Okay, so if I go back into here and I open up my index page, which is this here, okay, and I'm going to delete all this stuff, and I'm going to just do H1. Okay, I'll do an H1, and welcome to Georgian's online store. And I'll just leave that. I'm going to do a Control S to save it, and go back here really quick, do an update, see what happens. Welcome to Georgian's online grocery store. Okay, there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to misspell this word grocery 25 times throughout all these tutorials. I might even screw up Georgian too. Anyway, do the best I can. Okay. We clearly at this point can't really navigate to a store. Okay, we're actually in the store. So what I want to do is give a different option, which is going to be to browse. Okay, browse for products that I want to sell in my store. Okay, so what I will do is I don't want to create an index view, but what I want to do instead is actually go in, and I'm going to do public. Okay, public, and I'm going to call this browse. Browse. Am I spelling that right, everybody? You tell me. No, I am not. SE. Okay, and that's a method. And what do I need to return here? Hopefully you guys can actually remember what it was. So I have to do a return a view free to browse or online. I'm going to say, okay, never up here you are hungry. Shop here when you are will go broke. Okay. That's actually totally true for me. Okay. I never shop when I am full or hungry. Okay. Alright. So I've saved that. And now what do I got to do? I have to go back out and have a look and see what's going on. Okay. So store index. Okay. That's taken me right to here. But now I want to go to store and browse. Here we go. Feel free to browse our online options. Never shop here when you're hungry. You'll go broke. Never shop here when you're full. We'll go broke. Okay? Okay. So I do want to put in a link up here. Okay. I don't want to keep having to deal with this. I'd rather have something up here that takes me to it. So I go to here, and we did this a couple days ago or whenever the last thing was. And notice here in views, I've got three things that I have, 5 folders that I can choose from. It's shared. Okay, shared is one that we're really interested in. Okay, this is that common look and feel stuff that we've talked about, but this is also where our navbar is currently. Okay, so what I'm going to do with my navbar, see if I can get some room in here, is notice here I've got this navbar is going to my home controller, to index, and all that kind of stuff. What I would like to do is just copy that. Okay, and I'm going to copy and go right below that, and I'm going to update that. So I no longer want to go to my home controller. I want to go to my store controller. Okay, and I don't want privacy. What I want is index. Okay, I'm going to index because that is the action I'm going to is in my store view. Okay, which is this over here. It's this index. So I'm going to go to index first. And over here, I'm going to just call this, I guess I'll call it store. Okay, store. Kind of boring. I know that earlier I said that I wasn't going to navigate to the store itself, but when we get into the store, we're going to be looking at browsing inside there. Okay, so for now, I'm going to just add the word store to our navbar. So I will do a Control S because this is HTML. It's not CSS. Okay, and what I want to do right now is do a refresh, and I should see, there it is, store popped up there. So if I go to privacy, I click store, welcome to Georgian's online grocery store. Okay, now if I do this, if I add browse, I was hoping it was gonna WSE. Okay, I was hoping it was going to do it. See, now it goes there. All we've done is created the link to the store, to this the store, and it's the same thing as saying index. Okay, same thing. Okay, so that's where we're sitting currently. View. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just I'm going to show you some stuff that we're going to go and change a lot of later on when we start building our models. And our models is another name for database. Okay, so that's how I want you to think about it. In my models, I want you to think about my database. Okay, not to be confused with data. Think about database in terms of models. Okay, so in the meantime, until we get to that point, what we're going to do is a little bit of stuff on the screen right now that we're going to play around and then show you how to do a few things, but later on we are going to come back and change this. But I do think it's really important that you understand what's going on here. Okay, so I'm going to create a little list on the view right now. So I'll do a UL. Okay. So what I want to do is get to the point of why I created the browse part to begin with. Okay, so if I go back into here, I am going to create, I'm going to put a couple of, okay, so we'll just do it and you'll understand what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Okay, so I've got this tag in here. I'm going to do it again, and I want ASP, okay, and then an action. Okay, so action, and which action do you think that's going to be? Because when I go to my home or my store controller and I open that up, okay, I don't want it to send me to my index to browse stuff. I actually want it to send me to my browse. So I'm going to double click on that, grab the spelling to be exactly perfect on that. Okay, and then I'm just going to have to, I'll close out the, okay, there. So I've got these links. They don't really mean a whole heck of a lot at this point to me, but I click on that, I go here, check out the URL, store, browse. Okay, well, so what? That's not exactly useful to us. So let's go back into here, and we're going to do this one more thing because we want to start distinguishing between different categories or things that we're trying to browse in our store. So what I'm going to actually do is add this. I'm going to do ASP, okay, and I'll take the default, so then go down here to route, okay, and before I fill in produce again, what I want to do is define this thing myself. It's not in the list. It's not part of the IntelliSense. Categories. Categories. Okay, so I'm going to define that there. Categories. Let's go with category. Okay, I'm just going to put it in as a category. Okay, so I will save that, and I'm going to go back to my store. Okay, and I'm in store. Now it's refreshed, but now look at this. Notice that my browse, I've got this sort of key value pair thing going on. I've got browse, a question mark, and then my category, and it's got this produce. Okay, so that's an important next step that we need to look at. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually add it to my other two links. Okay, so I'm going to do just like this, copy, paste, and I'm just going to change this to meat and fruit. Okay, same sort of thing. Save that, go back, have a look, do a refresh, and produce, same thing, go back, meat, same thing, now fruit, same sort of thing. So I got browse, question mark, category equals fruit. Okay, so I'm good. I'm exactly where I want to be. So for the most part, we're done with this file folder for the moment. And I want to go over now to our store controller and go to this store method, okay? Because we've got to make a couple of updates in there. So what we're actually doing is when we do this is this category. We're trying to pass this parameter into this browse method here. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to pass it a string. So we're going to pass it a string, and it's going to be called category. Okay, and we're not done yet. We still need to be able to use this. So I'll make some space down here. And then I'm going to use something called a view bag. Okay, so this view bag is going to be view. You can see it come up on the IntelliSense view bag dot categories gory. Okay, and I've got to set it to category. Okay, and you can see it popped up also on the IntelliSense. That's a great sign. I'm going to do a Control S, and because this is C# code, I'm going to actually do a build. Okay, I'm going to build the solution. Notice there's 0 failed. Okay, so I've got that going on. Now there's one more place I need to go, which is in the browse. Okay, in my browse, what I'm going to do is try to output, let's do an H2. Okay, and in the H2, when I select on that, what I want it to do is just return the value that I was passing when I selected on that link. Okay, so this is going to be at viewbag, and it pops up at viewbag dot, you guessed it, category. Okay, and there it is. So let's save that. I don't have to build that, but I'm going to go out to here and notice I'm in store. Oops, something went wrong. It's not done updating. There we go. So before, when I pressed this produce, I was getting a totally different URL. Okay, but now when I press it, notice I'm getting produce. Okay, when I go back, I'm going to get meat. Okay, I do it one more time for the third one, I get fruit. And I think probably what I should do is move that down so it's a little bit less mixed up with all the stuff in the background. Maybe I should just actually get rid of the jokes. Maybe that would be the adult thing to do. So why don't I take these out of here? Okay, and I'm going to save that. I'll go back and refresh. Okay, so when I go to store and I hit meat, I get meat. Okay, produce, I get produce. Okay, so that's exactly where I want to be at this point. Okay, and one thing I should highlight, okay, is we're still here. This is what we're actually passing. Okay, we're saying this produce, we're going to pass it to category, so that when we get to here into our, we're going to pass that word into category, and we assign that to this view bag category. And then of course here, all we're doing is outputting what the view bag that we've set to category actually is. Okay, so it's displaying one thing at a time. The next thing I want to do is just kind of mess around a little bit with our models. Okay, so we're not actually going to build out the database yet. We're just gonna do a little bit of stuff that we're probably gonna have to change out later anyway, because we haven't built our tables and our databases and all that kind of stuff. But what I really want to do is go in and just quickly make some sort of hard-coded data. Okay, that's kind of the goal here. So what I'm going to do is click on my models. Okay, and I'm going to right click and do add. And right down here at the bottom, I'm going to add a class. Okay, and notice that this class name is going to be singular because it represents an object. Okay, so that's what we're going to do at the moment. And this one is going to be, what am I going to call this? I'm going to call this category. Okay, I'm just going to call it that. And it's a CS file. Okay, so it's going to just create its own file extension. Now, notice it's right here. Okay, so it's a in the namespace of georgiangroceries.models. Okay, which is right here. And it's a public class called category. Okay, so we're doing good if you're at this point right now. What I want to do is just go in here, and I'm actually going to highlight this, and I'm going to hit this little comment out this the selected line. So I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to actually go back to my store controller. Okay, so I've still got that. I'm good for this. I'm going to save that. I'm actually going to build that because it's a CS file. Okay, but I'll go back to my store controller. And I've got some things in here that I want to do inside my index view. So I'm back in my store controller, and I'm going to make this note here that I've already typed up. So I'm going to create use fake category or class model that we just did to create and display 10 different categories in our view. Okay, so that's what I want to do next. But I want to use my categories model. This stuff here. So I'll need the ID and the name. Okay, so that's what I'm looking to do. So I'll hit save, and that's CSO. I'm just going to build it. There's no errors, but I like to do that just so I don't start losing anything. I'm going to add one more comment in here. Okay, and it's that the next thing I want to do is actually create an object to hold a list of the categories. And what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to do a var. Okay, it's loosely typed. So var, and I'll call it categories. Categories, and I'm going to do, okay, new list. And it's going to be the square bracket. So yeah, just like that. And we'll call it, and it's not picking up the IntelliSense, but we're going to get to that in a second. Okay, and we'll finish this off with these brackets. Okay, now it's complaining, and it's kind of like, well, why is it complaining? Because in my models over here, I've actually got it. So if I go to my category thing, notice the namespace here though is that I'm actually in a .models. Okay, so in this particular one, there's no reference to it. Okay, it can't reference where that is. So if I click on this show potential fixes, okay, it gives me a couple of different options. And the one I definitely want is this using georgiangroceries.models. Okay, it's saying, hey, give me access to that file over there that you just created as a class, your category.cs class. Okay, so I'm going to hit that. Notice right here, it put the line in there, using georgiangroceries.models. And now the error actually goes away. Okay, so that's what we wanted to have. We created that object to hold the list of the categories. Okay, so let's realize we got to make a couple of changes, but I'll put in a note here. Okay, so I got to modify this return view so that it now accepts a list of categories to pass to the view for display. Okay, so I've got a little bit I need to do. I'm going to have to put in a for loop here. Okay, and I'm going to go with for. Okay, and it's your typical for loop. I'll go var I equals 1. Okay, semicolon, and then I is going to be less than 10. Sorry, just deal with my formatting a little bit. And then I plus plus. Okay, and I like to use as much real estate on my screen as I can for this. I don't see any reason to not. So I'm going to go with categories. And notice the IntelliSense picks it up, so that's good. And then we're going to do add. Okay, add new and category. How are we going to do this? So I don't like to do it all onto one line, but I'm going to just do it on one line just for this. So ID is equal to I. Okay, comma, and name. Okay, it's already starting to pick it up. Name is going to equal, and I'll put this in because it's a string, remember. So category. Okay, and after that we're going to do a plus I dot to string. Okay, close that off, and that and that, and I need a semicolon at the end. Okay, now we have to return something. So in my note it says modify the return view so that it now accepts a list of categories. Okay, so that means that I'm going to have to pass a parameter. So that's going to be categories. That has to get passed into here. Okay, so I will save that, but I've got an issue here. I've got nothing to display out to my computer. Okay, so when I'm in here at the top, what I'm going to have to do is add something, because in this HTML, I'm going to be referencing my models. Okay, so at the top, it's going to be the @, okay, model, and you can see it there. Okay, model, and I need this special thing called I enumerable. Okay, and just trust me at this point, you have to do it because it's part of the whole referencing of our model category, or the list of things that we're creating with the models. Okay, so what this is going to have to be is it's going to have to actually match exactly our models. So we will do this here. It's an enumerable, so which usually means you get the angle brackets. I almost said angle iron because I was doing some grinding recently. Angle brackets. Okay, so this is going to be Georgian groceries. Okay, dot models. Okay, and then category. See, it's only got a limited option anyway, so that's what we're wanting. And notice how the color is actually changing. Okay, so we're good there. We'll keep the H1 the way it is. Okay, and now I think what I want to do is I'm going to do a UL. Okay, I'll close that out, and oops, clearly I'm going to have more than one, and I need a for each at this point. So it'll be another for each. Okay, and this will be var C in model. Okay, a C in model. Oops, sorry. Okay, do these, take up my real estate, and it's going to be an LI. Jeez, fat finger syndrome today. Okay, an LI, and within that it's going to be at c.name. Okay, and it's closed off there. So that's all closed, that's closed, and I'm just checking to make sure, and I'm going to do a control, hold down the control KD, and that sorts out all my formatting. Okay, let's have a look and see where we are now. Okay, so if I go to my page, okay, and I'm going to go to store, something went wrong because I didn't give it time to update. Okay, check that out. I went to store, and now I have all my category 1, category 2, 3, 4, and so on, all the way to 9. Okay. So we're closer, but we're still not good enough. So what we're going to do is actually modify this. Okay. And the way I want to modify that is I'm actually going to do this now. Maybe I'll give it some space. Yeah, I'll give it some space. And what this is going to be is we're going to create those links again. Okay, so ASP dot, where do we want to go? It was controller first, and we want it to be store. Okay, and then after that we want ASP dot action. Okay, and what's the action we want it to do? We actually want it to browse. OWSE. Okay, and then from there we want ASP dot route. Okay, route, but this one is going to be the category again. Okay, category, and then that is equals to at c dot name. Okay, and close that out. And I think what I'm missing now is a closing. Yep, that's it right there. I don't want that there. I want it here. Okay. Okay. And that's what I'm going to want there. So I'm going to save that. Okay, so just quickly again, we're referring to the store controller, to the browse method, and the categories route. Okay, and we want to just output those, each of those names. So this is HTML, so I don't have to do anything other than refresh. Okay, and now look at this. So when I go to store, I get this, I click these, it goes to category 1, category 3, category 9. Okay, so it's giving me everything that I want it to give me. I just happened to notice that in my for loop, okay, in my controller, I noticed that it only went to 9, so I'm going to do less than or equal to, and I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to actually do a build. Okay, now I'm going to go out to here, and I don't have to do a refresh, but notice I got my last category 10. I didn't have that before, it was only going to 9. It's because I didn't have a less than or equal to for 10. Okay. So just to be clear, the reason why I would do this is because normally in a database, I would be trying to query my database. Okay, and look at the products that are actually inside my database. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. But when we get to building out the model or our actual database, we're going to connect that all up. And this is what we're going to be doing, being able to navigate to and from products that we are automatically, that we have built into the actual system. Okay, so understand what's going on here is that I'm actually navigating now to different products that I might have in my store. Well, I think we've actually gone far enough in this video. I think that's a lot for a week. Little bit of a review from last week what we were doing, but we've added substantially to what we want to do now. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close it off there, and keep in mind you have to start thinking about your unique project that you're going to do for your store. Can't be what I'm doing, can't be a grocery store. It's going to have to be some other form of e-commerce that, you know, your customers are going to have to input some sort of credit card payment. Okay, so for now, I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you in the next video where we will continue on from here. Thanks.